Hi, my name is Cecile Johnson. I'm CEO of African Development Plan, and I'm here today as part of Global City Unity's community outreach to keep you informed about issues that are impacting the African diaspora and finding ways that we can be united as a people so we can come up with common solutions. Today, I'm really excited. I got some young people, and once you're younger than me, you young people in our studio, right? And two of them are graduates from my alma mater, which is the Center, Jacob Carruthers Center for Inner City Studies, NEIU. Here on the south side of Chicago, and my guests are Manny Frencha, who is with Barbershop Rap and Off the Edge Male and Fatherhood Involvement. He's a young father himself. Brother First, who's in community engagement, welcome. We have a sister, Brittney Shurn, and she's an author, mentor, a recent graduate also of University of Illinois, right, Chicago. And Universal Prayther, who has a very interesting organization called Over Innovation of Inertia. All right. So I'm excited, right, because we got young blood in the house. So this time we're going to be talking about, from your perspective, what's going on. Then you can talk to me about your programs. Young lady, talk to me about your aspirations as it relates to media, right, and publishing. Universal, you're into health, right, so lay it on us, right? And Manny's doing those programs with the young people. I actually went to one of your events at your church, the Barbershop Rap. And then we're going to start off with Brother First. Brother First going to be first, right? And he's going to talk about what's happening to us and how it starts from the womb, right? Yeah. So welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Brother First, you mentioned that you're a community engagement. You didn't want to be called a specialist, but you are, because if you got those skills, we just have to claim them, right? You're a street spokesman, and you said we are under attack from the womb. What do you mean by that?
Yes, due to our lack of information, we think it's normal, it has become normal to take a prenatal pill without knowing the side effects. Many of our women do not know the side effects. We hear the side effects on TV commercials nowadays for every other drug, which is several things. Suicide, could grow breast, but it became normal. That don't mean it's natural. And we are under attack because nature produces what you need naturally. But it's not the sister's fault or the brother's fault. It's just due to all of our lack of information.
Okay.
So I take it to the street. Sisters that's pregnant or any other sister, I have a World Star video, dude on the bus, and I just share information in the street daily, on a daily basis, to inform the people that do not know, which is my tribe.
That the attack is starting from the womb. It's interesting that you should say that, right? Because I do data, so I've been observing that we were having a high number of C-sections in the black community, right? And yet we live in an industrialized, alleged developed nation, right? We spend 17% of our GDP on health. And yet, when it comes to black women, we see a disparity in maternal mortality, right? You have it's 3 to 1. So 3 black women will die for every 3.4 black women will die for every 1 white woman who dies giving birth. And in the state of Illinois, in the city of Chicago, 1 white woman died and 27 black women died. Now, this thing that you're talking about, the things that we don't know, when it comes to the C-sections, right? When I was in South Africa, a black nurse told me that she had been trained in the 80s that when you had C-section was really birth control, right? Because when you have a C-section, you can only have 3 children because it's a major surgery, right? And in that place, they were actually letting them have 2, and then they would tie the tubes. So when you talk about knowledge, right, people will sell you something like it's convenient, right? Oh, we can make the time and the date and have this done, right? When in reality, that's major surgery. Now you have restricted your future. My grandmother had 13 children, right? My other grandmother had 12. So the cycle of a woman's life is normally like that, right? Not that we should continue to have 12 and 13. However, when you don't know that the actions that you now take have now limited your potential to have future children, then that's what you're talking about.
Correct.
That we're not even knowing what's going on. So that's deep. I thank you for that information. Manny, you are a father of 2 teenagers. You're currently a student at the Carruthers Center for Inner City Studies, and you're a connector of community groups, and you seek to assist towards improvement. You are involved with Barbershop Rap and off-the-edge male and fatherhood involvement. And could you give me some information about that? Why was barbershop rap started? And what's it all about? What's in the name, barbershop rap?
Right.
And where you're located, what your programs are?
Okay. Well, barbershop rap began. I actually came on board in late 2009, but the actual event that started barbershop rap was a basketball tournament where a guy that knew my family from before I was born, I ran back into him through another guy that I met at a buddy of mine's funeral, and one has Off the Edge, which is the male involvement, and the other one, together they came up with an idea where the barbershop back in the day was like a haven for men. They would go and talk about a lot of the issues that they were dealing with. It was like no censorship with it, and even some of the younger brothers did it. I did it at one time until I started cutting my own hair, but from there it stemmed into the brother Gregory Clifton Wilkes wanting to give back to the community because it's located in Bronzeville. And we meet every fourth Monday of the month at Sixth Grace Presbyterian Church, which is located at 35th and Cottage Grove, 600 East 35th Street. And from there, the young men, they come to get a free haircut. We have different speakers. Like you said yourself, you was a guest speaker of ours last month. They get fed. With the 1 day a month thing, though, we're trying to facilitate and have some more consistency because 1 month is fine. However, a lot of things can happen in that 30 days, And
Right.
so, unfortunately, we've had some young people that have, succumbed to some of the street influences and things of that nature. So we're trying to add like documentary discussions Saturdays. We're not showing any Batman or any foolishness. We want to bring some awareness to our young people with some of the things. I mean, tying it into the brother who you haven't acknowledged yet, but the brother Universal. We went over some things dealing with health and how we need to understand our melanin, and that a lot of things that we live under, it doesn't tie into our melanin, and us nourishing our melanin. So that's just a small piece, but our diet is vital. A lot of our young people, we have different events, and we have people that come and cater, and we try to have a vast array of different things, and I don't want no vegetables. Give me all meat. I mean, okay, that's what you choose, but you got to balance that out, So we're trying to implement going to different museums to get our young people aware. A lot of them go straight, from home to school, and they're not getting to understand. They might pass through South Museum. A lot of them never been in there,
Right.
So it's things of, cultural awareness is a big thing that we need to get our young people in tune with. And I say, even though the group goes from 10 to 17, nobody gets turned away. My daughter is like an honorary member, because she comes with me. But on another level, I'm trying to do some things to work with people as young as possible. We need to stop censoring things from our children.
Right.
Culturally, we don't know who we are. We're not European. So
Right.
we got to get past that. We need to be working on and discovering us as adults and parents, tracing and finding our true African culture. And we need to teach that to our young people as young as possible. So that's some of the things that I try to implement with the group. This August 1st, we're coming up. It'll be the 7th anniversary, where this will be the 7th basketball tournament. It's a 3-on-3 that we do, where we get the young people to, they get drafted. In that aspect, I don't know if people are familiar with basketball, but if you play street basketball, 5 guys or 3 guys might walk up and say they're going to run the court. No, not on this day. You're going to get drafted, and you're going to learn how to work with somebody else if you want to win the final prize. So
it's a basketball camp
it's
type.
a basketball, 1-day basketball tournament. It's a basketball tournament. Whatever skills you got, bring it. So, but that's pretty much an off the edge is where we're trying to get males and with barbershop rap as well. Anybody. We would love to have anybody come to volunteer, but we particularly want positive males to come, because we have to get back reacclimated with our children. I mean, it's not just because my 2 children it's our children.
Right.
You know, these other young people, they need us to kind of step up, and that's something that I decided once I was pissed off with a job that I had and I got laid off, but it was divine order, you know, so I got to get into school and start working with young people. So that's my passion now, to try to help them, educate them, and things of that nature.
It sounds fascinating, and I've seen some of the work you do, because I've been in touch with you through the years as we met at school,
Yeah.
right? So that's a good thing. So you have a haven for young men, barbershop rap. They meet on the fourth Monday,
Yes.
and they meet at the Sixth Grace Church, which is at 635th Street, right? And what you're asking for is people to come in, like one of the brothers we're going to talk to, he's going to talk about health, but to bring some resource, right?
Yeah, no
and
doubt.
you'd like to be able to meet those young people more than once a month.
Exactly.
So if we had more men who would participate, then that could happen.
Yes.
So community, he's asking for some bodies, all these old men who are sitting around, who are retired, who have a skill, who can, you know, talk to the young people and give them some impetus
Share that
and
information.
motivation. Share that information.
Yeah, because you can't, it makes no sense to die with it.
Right. I love the part where you say no censorship, because we used to be able to sit and grown men would talk, but then we would learn what grown men talk about. You would not necessarily participate, but you would learn, right? So you were learning about your culture, etc. So that's awesome. Barbershop rap in Bronzeville. So there is a whole lot of good in the hood, even though I don't like to call it the
There's
hood.
always more positive going on than negative.
That's
but
right.
the negative gets publicized,
Airplane.
and we don't control the narrative. So
Exactly. So that's where the sister's going to come in and talk a little bit about that. Let me just have Prayther, Universal Prayther, who has formed the company Over Innovation of Inertia, right? And since you're tied to Manny, tell me a little bit about that.
So a little bit about Over Innovation of Inertia. We work to bridge a gap to health literacy, and we work to do this by using three perspectives. One of these perspectives I call inspirational praxis, and I really look to that as a cultural perspective to bring awareness of the many different options or inspirations that are out there that can inspire people. Just a bit more about that. I like to say this a lot, and I'm starting to say it more often. But I took this from Biggie. He said he grew up a screw up, got introduced to the game, got an ounce, and he blew up. So, and part of that, as youth, as kids, we're always busy. Whether if we want to see that as being a screw up, or just being fascinated by something, or just being moving, being alive. It doesn't really matter what age, because if you're a 4-year-old, 10-year-old, 20-year-old, you're still on this earth 20 years, 5 years, 10 years. It's something still new.
Right.
So there are a lot of things, a lot of beautiful things to witness, and a lot of beautiful energy to take in. So just on accountability of being introduced to something, and it can take you from one movement to another. If you're good at it or if you're not, that introduction is a huge piece. And this is where I play in with the cultural perspective, the inspirational praxis. Second part is health education. The focus is on self, how to make self beautiful, vibrant, and just empowered as being a physical body on earth. And lastly is I'm catching a blank, but let me go through it real quick. Motivation, praxis, culture, education, and fitness. So the fitness part is being in tune with self, so that a person can have control as they navigate to and from on this planet, on Earth, in the best way, and as long as they can, for as long as they're on this planet.
Okay, so that's powerful. So you will be tying in with Manny and the programs that they're doing?
Yes.
Okay.
Howso is building these capacities in terms of building other options in terms of sports or in fitness, and just being engaged and allowing it to be a movement into longevity, not just in youth, but on into the 30s, 40s, and so on and so forth.
Right.
We know the importance of health and the importance of moving, But I'd just like to share a little bit of statistics on some of this information. Kind of just tying back into health literacy a little bit. Health literacy is the degree in which individuals have the capacity to obtain, process, understand basic health information and services needed to make the appropriate health decision based on their anatomy. So, in a nutshell, according to the National Assessment of Adult Literacy, nearly 9 out of 10 adults may lack the skills needed to manage their health and to prevent disease. So 14% of adults, that's nearly 3 million people, have basic health literacy, have low basic health literacy.
14%?
14%.
Okay.
And what I like to tie this to is an overall, just a basic, well, not really a basic, but a very high health concern here in the nation, across the nation, and that's cardiovascular disease. So cardiovascular disease is the main cause of death in America. Every 45 seconds, someone dies from a stroke. Every 3 to 4 minutes, a stroke has killed someone. Every 26 seconds, a person has a heart attack, and by every minute, a person dies from a heart attack. So having numbers like this really states the wow, and it really brings the overall attention and say, are we really implementing what we do know about nutrition and also for fitness? And instilling this inside of youth, so as they go on into longevity, they are constantly protecting themselves as they go on through the world.
So we are what we eat, and the fascinating thing about what you're saying is that you have graduated from Northeastern with an undergrad degree in community health,
Yes.
right, and wellness, and you're going to start a program in the fall in Masters in Exercise Science. So here you are taking sports to some degree, right, but you're taking health with it, and you're giving us the missing piece. We have a lot of athletes who get older. I went to a basketball event last week, and you'd be surprised that these were the super athletes. And when you look at them now, they were like, you know. So what you're saying is critical. These are things that need to be taught while you're young and lay that foundation.
My dad died of kidney failure after being a great athlete back in high school. So, I mean, from him to be a great athlete to have to need a wheelchair and a walker and die at 55, that's because you're not aware. And then once you get to a certain age, you're like, oh, I'm going to die anyway, you know.
Well, only in the black community here. Only in the black community. There's a thing that, I'm going to let her talk, but there's a thing that says that depending on where you live in the black community, there's a difference of 14 years of life, right?
Yes.
And so we have already have a difference in life expectancy between black males and white males, right? And black females and white females, and actually life expectancy has gone down 2 years for males and 3 years for women, right? And in the city of Chicago, it's a 14-year gap depending on the zip code if you make over 51,000 versus under 25,000. So there's that issue. So what you're saying is real, because in our communities we have a lot of preponderance of food deserts, and we don't cook. It seems like we've forgotten all these skills, and we eat up all this garbage, and it's creating the health hazards that you now talk about, which gets into what this young lady, Brittney Shurn, is a recent graduate at University of Illinois in English and philosophy, right? And she has aspirations to own her own publishing company. And she says she would like to focus on transitions, what they want us to talk about in urban fiction, and making it into authentic stories and not fulfill stereotypes, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, as I mentioned, I'm an author, aspiring. I'm working on my first novel, which is called The Father's Daughter, which focuses on relationships between the father and daughter, from, ranging from suburban to urban. Actually, since we're doing the charter schools, it's actually bridging the gap with a lot of urban and suburban students, which allows you to explore the dynamics of what a father means in a daughter's life. So what I get to do from that is I mentor on the side, and I get to speak to a lot of different students, and I get different experiences to accompany my own, and I try my best to authenticate it. And from my studies in my undergraduate degree of English, there's not a lot of novels that we as African Americans can read in our studies. Right. We get our standard Frederick Douglass, we get to go through James Weldon, The Invisible Man, we get to go through Booker T. Washington, but not many current faces that tell an authentic story, that allows an urban child to become inspired or to understand how to develop outside of economic disparity. My goal is to, find those authors, find the words, the experiences, and help them to own it. Help them not to become the stereotypical urban fiction novel that gets published with grammatical errors, that gets placed on display with degrading uses of women or anything like that. I'm trying to actually break that gap. I'm trying to bring it back to where an African American, male or female, can see themselves getting a Nobel Peace Prize, can see the urban environments change and literally develop into something kind of what it used to be, where you can see the barbershops that you go to. They used to have, the local rappers come and actually publicize their work in front of a strange audience. Make that unique, make that, bring back that authenticity, give it an allowance. And then I'm hoping just to use that to change the images that we see.
That is powerful. When I was in South Africa, I met an attorney who's actually a publisher also, and they have Real African Publishing. And what he said to me was that he who controls that image, right?
Yes.
So we had all these classic books, and some of them were out of print, and you have to buy them for 150 or whatever on the web, right? But because those who controlled our brain trust, right, could make it available or not available. So we definitely have a need for black publishers, and we have a need for conscious black publishers who are not just looking for the money. You've talked about that image that we have where they are doing stereotypical urban, what they decide is urban stuff. So we are actually running out of time here, but I would like to thank all of you for coming in and sharing with us some of the programs that are out there. We want young people, we want the community to know that they're not just what they want to term out there gangbangers, right? We have young people who are actually involved in a number of things. And so this program that you have, this aspiration is something that's beautiful. You talked about fathers and daughters, right?
Yes.
So many of the men in our community are missing, right? They're in jail or caught up in the criminal injustice system. And so that focus on fatherless daughters, and because we have a lot of focus on the fatherless son, right? We never hear much about the young girls. And so that's an issue. So dynamics of what fathers mean. Is your father currently involved in your life?
Yes, my father's always been involved with my life, and he had really no choice. I have a different story when it comes to my upbringing, which you'll probably find out through my novel. But his presence definitely changed a lot of things, and my father comes from an urban environment, and his will to protect me from experiencing anything of what I probably should have is probably what made me the person I am today. And what that means is it simply comes from the fact that we can be within a impoverished area and still have a heart of gold.
Right.
And to me, that's kind of what he exemplifies. He's the person who went out of his way to provide through any struggle and through every obstacle. And what his story has done gave me a story to allow to be shared, to reach those who don't have a father or who father may have a limited access to them, to understand perhaps why they're experiencing that, to help them understand like the economics that went into placing their father into jail or anything, and or to where they felt the need to go into the streets. I go and I speak to those young women to give them that access to understand like I relate to you. No, my father, isn't perfect, but he was there. He was a strong will, and coming from a man who didn't have a father in his life, he's made a whole lot of impacts, and that's.
You mind if I jump in there?
Yeah, you can jump in because this is part of the restoration.
Honestly, I had the same like as you explain your story, you're explaining my story. My father didn't have a lot, and won't claim to be, you know, a rich person or a wealthy person, but growing up in filth, and I don't mean just being dirty, but I'm talking about in a cantankerous environment where there's crime rates, there's murders. I remember bringing a Uzi clip to my father, asking him what was this, or as if it was a toy or, you know, a broken piece. But his devotedness towards us being there, it has allowed me to do and grow and to continue a legacy of what he started. And I want to give back. You know, he gave to me, and I want to give back. This potential that the youth have, and this is what this is all about. Creating some type of haven where the youth have the opportunity to bring solutions towards the front, towards the future.
Right.
And what I mean towards the future, I don't mean just to be engaged or to grow or to establish, not only to establish economic, social, and empowerment, but also on a global note, where we're not just African Americans sitting on certain blocks, but we're African Americans in Russia.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're conducting business in Russia. We're speaking Russian. While we're in Turkey, we're global. You know, we're all around the world conducting ourselves in the highest standards, doing because we can do. Coming from a place because coming from a position where we thought it and we manifested it, and it's reality. Now we're living it.
That's beautiful. Manny, you are a father. We got about a minute left, so I'd like you to say something, because we keep hearing about these fathers who disappear, etc., and all I've seen is love. Every time I look, you're right there by your daughter and your son, you know, so.
Yeah, well, like I spoke of my dad. My dad had 6 children, and it was like 2 sets of us. And a lot of things that he did for those older 2, he didn't really do for us because he started to get sick. So I thought he's like one of the grouchiest people that ever existed. And so just briefly, I said I was going to debunk and, refute all of the stereotypes and do what I needed to do for my children. And I mean, I'm not going to gloat about it because they're my children, so I'm supposed to do that. But just real quickly, through some research that I've discovered about my granddad, some information that I'd never known, I may be able to connect what happened to my dad. Lost his dad as he was going from grammar school to high school. So maybe some of those issues he carried with him. And so he, I'm not going to say I never got beat or anything or whooped like that, but it seemed like he could have been more intuitive at certain times. But real quick, and the last thing, I did understand, back in high school, my name was in the paper for playing baseball. And he was on kidney dialysis before he died. He did that for like 13 years. And so I didn't have any knowledge of me being in the paper. But anyway, he took the paper when he left early that morning, and he underlined my name and circled it, and apparently was showing it to everybody. So what I thought for him to be was the greatest grouch, I was like, okay, so there is a soft side of him. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So, but with my children, I just try to instill in them certain seeds and just talk with them and try to spend that time with them. So that's pretty much it.
We have run out of time, and I want to thank you for sharing your story and thank all of you for coming on and letting community see what positiveness we have out there, all your great ideas, and we really want you to be the next generation of leaders. So we look forward to that.